President of Winter Park Toastmasters. She recently competed in and won the Tour de France and a Nobel Peace Prize. Now that we've got your attention, please welcome Toastmaster Linda Spear with her speech, "Where Have All the Trains Gone?"
Good morning, everyone. How many of you have ever ridden your bike or run on the Katy Way Trail, West Orange Trail, Seminole Wekiva? All right. Well, did you know that you were on old train tracks? Up until the last half of the 20th century, our railroads were a big part of U.S. life. In the 1950s, the struggling railroads were abandoning up to 8,000 lines each year. And with the advent of the automobile, our dependence on railroads continued to decline. Then in the Midwest in the 1960s, people started using these abandoned and unused rail corridors for recreation and rejuvenation. They were cross-country skiing, snowshoeing on all of these abandoned stretches of land. It was an organic beginning to a nationwide movement. In the 1970s, Congress effectively deregulated the railroad industry, preventing the discontinuation of unprofitable routes. It's called the Railroad Revitalization and Regulatory Reform Act of 1976, was passed to fund the rejuvenation of these rail corridors and create these public trails. Soon afterwards, a group of activists began to meet monthly in Washington, D.C. to mobilize efforts to preserve these rail corridors. And then in 1986, the Rails to Trails Conservancy, the RTC, was created. Its mission was to create a nationwide network of trails of the former corridors and to build healthier places for recreation activities. RTC's work focuses on two activities: advocating for trail-friendly government policies and using these policies to initiate trail development on the ground. To actually build the trails, they would pull up the actual metal trails off of the land, and they'd grade it and then cover it with gravel, rocks. Sometimes it was paved, not always, or sometimes just dirt. The rail bridges were often incorporated into the trails too, so they could keep those. And if you've ever traveled on some of these trails, you'll notice there would be little stores, little buildings along the sides. Those were actually little rail depots. So whenever I'm on the trails, when I'm riding my bike or something, I go, oh, I wonder what there's the little depot there, there's the little depot. And it's really a cool part of history when you're riding your bike and seeing all of these things. A lot of them, they would have places where there would be shipments of, especially if you go to West Orange Trail, there'll be shipments of celery, and you'll see signs where they actually were loading trains on all of those. So when you're on the trails, look at those historic things that are still there that remind you of what those trails were. Today, 40 years later, these rails have made a significant mark on all of our communities. There's 21,000 miles of rail trails on over 110 trails serving tens of millions of people in all 50 states. The organization today receives no government funding and is supported almost entirely by paying members and foundation and corporate grants. In recent years, the RTC has focused on urban rail trail systems due to growing congestion in cities and mobility problems in cities. And now there's ongoing problems in many major cities to use these urban rail trails to get people moving. In Florida, there's many trails you've heard of. We've talked about the Katy Way Trail. The Katy Way Trail is actually 6.5 miles, and at the north, it connects to the Cross Seminole Trail, which is 23 miles, which then connects to the Seminole Wekiva Trail, which is 14 more miles. That's nearly 43 miles of continuous trails in our own city. These are all old railroad corridors. Plans are underway to connect all these trails eventually in Orlando Metro and have a continuous trail around the city. rail trail. My brain seems to be mixing these words up today. There's one called Van Fleet. Has anybody ever been to Van Fleet? Van Fleet is a trail, well, that's Halen, but Van Fleet, it's not Van Halen Trail, it's Van Fleet Trail. And we used to ride, it's west of Claremont, the trailhead, and you can go almost 30 miles one way and 30 miles back. Now, you have to be careful. You are in the country, and there are gators that sometimes come out. One time we ran over a snake, which was interesting. A little bike crash there. But we used to train out on that, and we do 60 miles in a day, nonstop, no traffic, kind of boring, but it was really interesting. You just look out for wildlife. These trails and greenways are a healthy recreation and transportation opportunity, providing people of all ages safe places to cycle, walk, hike, jog, or skate. Everyone can incorporate daily exercise if you're near one of these trails, and I'm fortunate enough to live right near Katy Way Trail. There are also really visible transportation corridors, especially with e-bikes today. You see a lot of e-bikes, and people are actually using the trails as true transportation corridors today. So I think that's really a great movement. You can go to the RTC website, it's traillink.com, or download to your smartphone TrailLink. There's an smartphone app called Trail Linked. And you can find trails anywhere in the United States. This rail-to-trail movement has significantly improved the quality of lives of many Americans, including me. So the next time you see a trail and wonder, hey, why is this trail here? Now you know. It's where the trains were. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.